But first, I want to get some advice from an expert. Steve Chandler has been a builder for 40 years, and he's the owner of a property development company called Lefter. And he joins me on the line. G'day, Steve.
How are you, Chris?
Start with the leaks, Steve. It's raining. What do we do if we've got leaks from the ceiling or the windowsill?
Well, I reckon if you're lucky enough to be able to find a tradie to be able to help you at the moment, you're doing well. The industry's absolutely, flat out at the moment, and it's really difficult to actually find someone for starters. But one of the things that we've sort of done with modern building is we've got rid of eaves on our houses where the roof overhangs your wall. And now we've got water just hitting the side of our walls because our eaves don't exist, running straight down into our windows, and the window is able to get saturated more so now than with the modern designs than previously. But one of the things we can do is, when it's not raining, get on the outside and have a look at our windows and have a look if the mouldings that go around the outside of the window frame are actually hard up against the brickwork or the cement render, and make sure there's no gaps around the window that allows the moisture to come through.
And when if there are gaps, what do you do?
You look for that horrible thing that 40 years ago didn't exist called silicon. So there's plenty of different products on the market. I'll never recommend a particular brand, but what I will say is there's all these things that 40 years ago we didn't have. We used to do things what we would call properly. So when I started in the trade, in 1980, sort of the big thing that was coming in the industry that was going to save us all was this thing called silicon. Unfortunately, what it did is it made the technology, if you like, has changed the way that we build things. And we always used to have this scenario of building two lines of defence against water, because we say that waterproofing issues is 1% of our building budget and 99% of our problems. So with your windows, flashings and things of that nature where you don't have to rely on silicon is really important. So it's the way we construct houses that has really changed. So if you've got an older home, generally it's what we call the storm moulds around the windows that have probably come away and water's getting in behind with the wind, in which case you'd fill them with a no more gaps or something of that nature, and then paint over it.
What about light fixtures? Because that's one where the water seems to make its way in. What do you do there?
Well, when you have water dripping through a light fitting, the best thing you can do is go to your switchboard outside and turn it off. Turn your power off. You don't want to get electrocuted. A lot of older homes don't have what we call safety switches installed, and that's first and foremost. But if you've got water on the ceiling in one of your rooms, obviously you've got a broken tile or something of that nature on the roof, allowing that water to come in. But what you've got to be really careful of, other than being electrocuted, is that water is going to soak into the plasterboard on your ceiling, and that plasterboard is going to get really heavy.
And so should you poke a hole in it? Because I saw that they did that on the block last night, Steve. They poked a hole in it,
absolutely.
And then out it comes.
You bet. Yeah, definitely. You've got to get the weight, because water's heavy, you've got to get the weight off your ceiling, otherwise your ceiling will collapse. And if you're underneath it when it comes down, it's going to be ugly.
Imagine
definitely. I had that. I was doing a renovation of my own home a number of years ago. We had a storm come through. The tarpaulins I had on the roof got ripped off, and we just had this torrent of water come down on our kitchen ceiling. I was punching holes in it with, putting buckets underneath, etc. I knew you had to get that water off the ceiling before the ceiling collapsed.
And just very, very briefly, what about mould? That's a big one. How do you get rid of it, or how do you prevent it happening? Because people are sick of it.
Mould's really bad. Anyone who's got asthma probably knows mould's really, really bad for you and can set off an asthma attack. You've got to be really careful with mould. It's basically just moisture. It's caused by lack of air movement and having moisture in the air, and bathrooms obviously get that all the time, and that's why it's really important to have your windows and fans going. If you've got air movement, it helps. you've got to try and get that moisture out of your house. So, summer and winter, and I know winter, this doesn't sound like a good idea, but opening your windows and letting the breeze through, just make sure you're wearing a jacket or something like that. But you've got to get the moisture out of your house. If you've got moisture coming in underneath your floor, then you're going to have a moist house. That's really bad. What you would want to do then is look at some way of stopping the water from getting under your house through ag lines around the outside or some sort of drainage. You've got to stop moisture getting into the home.
If you've got rising damp, I'll give you the tip. Go to the bank and remortgage the thing because it costs you a fortune.
Yes, it does. It's not easy to fix. Definitely not.
Good on you, Steve. I really appreciate your time.